Your way to do it is to figure out some nice smooth curve that goes between them. So there's math going on behind the scenes to calculate this smooth curve between those pieces. It involves calculus and saying what should my derivatives of my line be at all these points, meshing them up, solving some equations. That's what it does behind the scenes to make this animation happen. Because if you look here, I could take this point, shift it up and down. This is what I was typing in before. And as I do it, that curve is changing. It's automatically recalculating. What is the smooth way to get to this point and then get back to that point without causing my animation to look really funky? So it flies way up in the air and back down. Back to my animation. Well, let's look at the X position I was changing. Let's change that way down here.
Is there any way to make the point in time when it loops smoother? Because when it completes the animation, right, and then it resets it, that's the only point in the entire animation that it's jerky.
Yes, you don't like this point right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The way that you could try to fix that is to make a duplicate point right before it. Or move these points around just until you get it smooth.
Okay.
It's not going to be exactly perfect. I still need to look up, as I had that same question myself. Like, why is it jerky when it loops? Because it's not doing this kind of solving around the horn. And I wish it would in some ways. If you could click a button or two to make that happen, that would be great. And I'll keep looking into that. This gets us going, though, to make animations. Because now it's just flying around. Let's go see my other direction. Z does nothing. Z should be moving itself around. And so now my object is flying around the screen exactly how I told it to. And then we can do the same thing for the sphere. Go back to our animation window and it says there's nothing going on with the sphere. Let's add a new animation. Rotate me. Let's do the rotation part. Again, it has 3 axes. Let's rotate it around the y-axis in 1 second. This is the curved part. I want it to be here. 359.9. So every second, it rotates itself around. Transforming XYZ coordinates of the position, transforming the rotation. You could translate the scale as well. Let's go back to our animation window here and say I need to add a new one on the transform. Let's bring in the scale. And let's say over that second, it's Z direction. We'll get bigger. Actually, let's leave that as a 1 like it was. But here in the middle, I'm going to make it bigger. 7. So every second squishes itself out, puts it back together. Essentially, every component that is part of that object can be animated in a scripted way. Because we can do it for the sphere collider, We can bring in, is it triggered or not? Depending on how far out it is, will this sphere collide with things or not? What is the center? The sphere collider could have a bigger or smaller radius as things go along. How does the mesh change? What is the material? You can animate a material change on your object if you wanted to. Moving things up and down. Just over time now, we have a scripted, prescribed way to draw these curves, change this object as things move through time. Up and down, our rotation, spinning through there. Any questions about this? Okay, so our next project is going to be Marble Mania. Let's look at some images. You might be familiar with these big marble toys. Marbles need to move, according to physics, moving up and down. There are gears that can rotate. There are pieces that can flap back and forth. So I need you to use animations and physics to set up a marble machine. You should have 3 marbles going through at different times. You need to have at least 4 things being animated, moving around, shifting those marbles. You can get as complicated as you want, but those are the requirements that the marbles, there has to be 3 marbles and 4 animated things. And it has to take, let's say, at least 30 seconds for the marble to go through its path. So enough going on with your physics, enough going on with your channels and stuff. Drag together objects, put together your mesh, however you want to do some kind of toy like this. You get familiar with animations, you'll get more familiar with objects, and you should add in some materials and textures and some shaders into this as well. Make it look more than just gray boxes. Although there's a lot of gray boxes here. Make it look with some nice materials. Make something you're proud of. Any questions? Yeah.
So, first thing comes up to me, like, how would you make? Because you can't just do like a 3D object for like a half little like a kind of like a tube, like a half tube for your ball to roll in, right? You can just like import that, or you can just make like a 3D object for it off the bat. So would you just like cut off a cylinder and hollow it out? How would you make that sort of?
So the tubes, don't worry about going through tubes. Even though you see a lot of tubes. I don't want you to have tubes, because those don't exist in our Unity yet. And these swirls and stuff, do what you can with the basic meshes that are part of Unity. So you can make 2 flat, planed out cubes sticking together to make a channel so that the ball can roll down them. Be creative with those pieces. Yes?
I can make some half-pipe meshes and send them to everybody.
If you wanted to try to make some half-pipe measures, I tried to import yours into my Unity because Berserk has started playing with Maya. It is the way that you make meshes. These meshes that we have, they come from somewhere else. They come from the 3D animators that sit there and put a mesh together. So that's one of the tools at a minimum that somebody should present on in our tool days. But I'd like for us, if we get through enough of the interactive game stuff, to be able to show you a day of Maya so that we can learn other tools in that spot. Because it's a really interesting program to say, how do I make these meshes that are better than just a cube? That would be nice. So if you want to make some meshes, we need to test them out to make sure that I can install them, because my Unity said my Maya could not turn them into FBXs. If you can export them as an FBX file, I think it would be easier to then load them up in Unity. But there's a lot of stuff that has to go on with pipelines. When you're working on a team to make a game, you have to know who has what assets, Where are they created? Are they in the right format? Okay, now they're all put together. You usually have some shared Dropbox space or some kind of version control on everything that's coming out so that everything is piecing together in the right ways. You might be working on a game that somebody else was done with 3 months ago because they drew all the pictures. And you're just assembling it and putting it together, and they're done on some other project. Yeah, question?
Blender already has like this extension or something, like you can export it to a Unity file, and it has everything already in it. You can use Blender.
Okay, Blender is a free mesh maker. I tried to use Blender. I found it a little confusing. Maybe it's that you either find Blender or Maya confusing, one or the other. Hopefully not both. Maya is an expensive tool that you can get for free because you're a student. You should be able to type an edu address into the Autodesk website and download Maya, and download AutoCAD and some other things while you're a student and get access to those licenses. So cross your fingers that that would work, but Blender is another tool. And I think both of them work well for exporting things to Unity or Unreal Engine or whatever game engine you're working with. Okay, other questions? Do you understand the next task? I think you have enough new stuff we did today with materials, textures, and shading and animations to make a really cool marble machine. That will be due, let's see what you can get done by Friday. I think you can do it by Friday. Make a marble machine by Friday. You already have the experience making something in Unity. Now you get animations. So we've got 5 minutes. You can test out some animations, put an object in. Hopefully you've been doing that, going along with me as I do it. But otherwise, make some animations, get that screen to happen. Before we leave, just a preview of what's going to happen next. We just said open up the animation tab and make some animations. Other things showed up in our assets. An animator. If you look at your object for the cube, it has a new component, not an animation, but an animator. This is a screen we'll talk about later. This is the mechanism screen, where we can say, I am an animator that has 5 animations inside, instead of just 1, this up-down. And I can draw a finite state machine that tells me how I'm going to move from one animation to the other. It's either controlled by where it is on the screen, or user input, or interactions. Some input comes in, and it says, do this animation instead of that animation. You want to do the walking animation now, and then if this happens, you want to do the running and screaming animation. Those kind of changes are all going to be managed inside this finite state machine kind of idea. And you can drag and drop and move things around, put things together inside mechanism. But don't worry about that. Don't open the animator, open the animation window. This is the one with the curves and the movements and all the components that you change. Yeah.
Do you know if the assets folder is relative to each project? Or
Yes.
it is?
Relative not to each scene, but to each project. The scene itself, I haven't saved it yet, but let's go ahead and save my scene. Moving stuff is an asset. And that's a good point. You want to start organizing your asset folder. As your games get bigger, as the more things you do, you're going to start having 50 files in here. This is where our scripts are going to show up. So it's going to be a good idea to say, I'm going to make a new folder, call it materials, if I can spell it right, materials, and then let's put some materials in there. Let's put these tiles and stuff in there. I want to make a new folder called animations. Let's move that stuff in there. Now Unity can find stuff no matter where it is. If it's in your assets folder, Unity can find it. This is for you, not for Unity. This is for your sanity.